All right, so we have our Hello World program here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete it and get rid of it. And now I want to talk about variables. So we talked about earlier how variables are like a storage container where you can put a piece of data in there. And so we're going to go ahead and create a variable. Python is a programming language that is very easy for new learners to understand. Right? And one of the ways it's so easy to understand is that to create a variable, all you need to do is write down the name of the variable that you want to create. Okay, so if I wanted to create a variable called num, I could say num like that, and I can use it. Okay, so just me typing the word num is me creating a variable called num. So you can imagine if we're going back to the picture of the locker room, it's like me creating a locker and writing the name num on it. And of course we want to give our variables names because then we can go back and find the value that we want. Right? So if we saved your name in a variable, we would probably call that variable name. If we saved your age in a variable, we would probably call that variable age. So when you create your variables, you want them to be as descriptive as possible. So right here, when we say num, that's really not very descriptive, but for now, it'll be okay. Later on, when our programs get a little bit more complicated, we'll be more descriptive. But for now, num is fine. Okay. So we have our variable, it's created. The next thing that we want to do is we want to put a value inside of the variable. So how do we do that? Well, we use what we call the equals operator. Okay, the equals operator. And what is that? That's the equal sign. So we'll go ahead and type in equals, and I'll say equals 5. Okay, and so what is this doing? Ooh, and notice we have that little gray line there. And if I hover, no new line at the end of file. So of course, as we learned in the past video, I'm going to add my new line and that gray will go away. Okay, so we have num is equal to 5. Well, how does the equals operator work? Okay, well, what it does is it does the right side of the equals sign first. So what it's doing is it's going to take this 5 on the right side of the equal sign, and it's going to put it into the variable on the left side of the equal sign. So going back to our example here, we created a locker, we gave it the name num, and that equal sign is like us opening up that locker, putting in the number 5 into that locker, and now we have that 5 saved in num. Okay, so we can go ahead and now print out num. Okay, so if I go ahead and use a print, I'll put 2 parentheses, and inside of the parentheses, I'm going to put num. So what do you think is going to print out? Do you think that the word num is going to be printed out? Well, let me tell you, when you print the name of a variable, what it's doing is it's going to go to the variable, it's going to find it right here, it's this locker called num, it's going to find the name and say, okay, this is the variable that we're talking about. The print function is going to open up that locker, take the value that's inside of it, and print that out to the screen. Okay. So what's going to print out is not the name of the variable. No. The content of the variable is going to be printed out to the console. Okay. So if I go ahead and play, you can see here that I am printing out the number 5. Okay. So why don't you go ahead and try this out and print out the number 5, create a variable, put a value inside of it, and try printing out that variable. Okay. You might have some errors, like maybe you forgot to put this second parentheses, and if you run it, then it'll say some kind of an error message down here. So you have to go back and look and say, hey, what's wrong? And if you have a red squiggly line, you can hover over that red squiggly line and it'll give you a pretty good hint on how to fix your error. Right here it says parentheses expected. So I'm going to come over here, put my parentheses in, my errors go away, and I'm able to run my program. Okay. So why don't you go ahead and do that and see if it works on your side.